So, welcome to the committee meeting for July 11th, 2017. All four board members, minus Tim Bryant, are in attendance, and Mr. Amodio, our superintendent. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item A is construction update.
Yeah, I'm going to just give a couple real quick ones real quick. Obviously I texted out to you guys how tremendous our AP scores were. And some of those levels are historic. I mean, they are so good. And so I was really fired up about them for a couple days. So I interrupted Sarah while she was cleaning her house. What was that? Sunday, Monday, one of the days, Saturday, something. And I had this brainstorm. I'd like to bring them to the August board meeting. Now, my first thought was, well, we'll send them a letter from the superintendent and all the board members. Then I thought, no, let's bring them to a board meeting. But we also always struggle to get high school kids to come. So I was verbalizing this, and Debbie taught AP for 20-some years. And as you guys know, who've all had kids in AP, they develop a really unique and strong relationship with the teacher of that AP class. So she goes, I bet if you talk to the teacher, you give them a letter that they can mail out to all the kids, put them in envelopes, that if the teacher asks, Leslie Hadaway, Tim Ruoff, Rick Robish, that you'll be able to get them there. And so I'd like to bring all those kids to the April board meeting. Everybody got a 3, 4, or 5 because that's college credit. That's amazing. And what's really neat about our AP teachers is they do a lot of work with the kids in the summer, especially Rick. I mean, I know both your kids had him, and meeting them at Chipotle, and that's great. That's tremendous how we scored this year. I mean, that was just so. You guys okay with that? Mm-hmm. Then I'd like to bring our track kids, our state qualifiers, the kids who play. All of our kids who went up there, they placed. So I'd like to bring them in August too, providing our meetings before they head off to college, because a couple of them are going to run track in college. So Olajuwon's going, Boston's going. So I don't think they'll have headed off to college yet because it's not a fall sport. So I'd like to bring those kids, because I thought about, okay, we could have brought them here, but it's bringing them here into this room as opposed to into the mini. The mini's more formal and it's a bigger deal. Mm-hmm. And so I thought we'd bring them back, bring those two groups of kids in, because we have no recognitions in August. And it'd be a good kind of kickoff to really the start of the school year. So, and then just this is an FYI, it's a cost savings. We have a couple employees who are Hamilton County ESC employees. We're going to bring them, other than Roger, we're going to bring them back in and make them our employees. Here's who that would be. Michelle Witt in enrollment. And then Sergio Smith, who's a behavior specialist for us. Why we're bringing them in as our employees is the ESC is charges a 5% overhead. So we're saving a couple dollars by bringing them back in. Roger will stay with the ESC primarily because of the uniqueness of his contract, to where he has tripwires based on whether he finishes in the red and the black and capital investment. It's really unique, and the flexibility of being in the ESC works for that. His assistant, Liz, she left. She got food service director job in Milford. And so when you go from about $28,000 to $30,000 to about $65,000, and she's real good, registered dietitian. She's tremendous. So, why I'm telling you this is, one, is you need to know, and second, the behavior support specialist position of Sergio, that hasn't ever been. We just started that position a year ago. This was his first year, so that's never been a Norwood City School District board approved job description, because it was an ESC job. So it'll be on the agenda next week for you guys to approve the job description. I'll email it to you in advance. And Michelle's job, that's been a Norwood job. Then we went to the ESC. Now bring it back to Norwood. It's already a board approved job, so we don't need to get that job description approved. So bring us to a construction update. So I'm going to go building by building, and hope you enjoyed my professional photography today with my phone, especially the sideways ones where after I sent it, I'm going, okay, maybe if I turn my screen, then I discover that little button that turns it, and then I'm still screwing it up. So I went to my experts Terry and Kelly, and I said, can one of y'all fix these, send them back to the board, because some of them look like, the scene with the bad guys in Batman, and so the screen is kind of crooked. That's what they look like. So I'm going to go building by building, give you an update of where we're at, and then also bring you an update on where we are and planning already for the next phase. So the high school, here's what's been done at the high school. The first challenge was, there's a new access window, so if you walk in, it's to the left. It's covered by a board, but it's an access window where people come in, check in, sign in, things of that nature. But the first thing that had to be done on the other side of that was all of our PA system and a whole lot of computer lines, wires, conduit that came down from all floors and came down there. Then they go downstairs. So those had to be relocated to around the other side of a support beam. Once that was done, then the window was able to be cut in. So that's what's been done at the high school so far. Everything else is going to be what's called the glass storefront, which is the glass, the aluminum framing, and the doors. The middle school, a lot of work's going on there. The exterior brick and masonry, it's on schedule, and it's moving like crazy. That is a whole lot of linear feet to pressure wash, grind, repack, paint, all those things. When I'm saying painting, it's all the lintels, which is the metal piece that stops the building from caving in on the windows. That's all being ground down, sand down, rust-proof, painted, primed, all those things. Then as you saw from the pictures, in the secure entry, the new access window and door has been cut in, and the steps, the old marble's been taken off. If you looked in the bid specs, there was two options in there. First option was to remove the marble intact. Now, not obviously in one big slab, but intact, which was a 50-50 shot because it's the original marble step, so it's been glued down for over 100 years. And then it was either going to be, if the original marble came up good, the original marble would be put back down. Well, the original marble didn't come up real well. So also in the bid specs, there was a contingency for the new marble to be put in. In design, it's pretty close matching. It's almost identical, but you couldn't piece the two together because one has 100 years of wear on it and the other one's brand new. Why the marble had to come up is to give enough space up top to be within code before those doors, the storefront secure doors. We actually have had to move the steps out 3 feet closer to the front doors. So that's all within code. So when I was over there yesterday, they were actually starting to frame in to be able to pour the concrete for the new steps. So that's good. That's what's in process there now. And so the old marble we are given to the Alumni Foundation. If anybody would like a piece of it, let me know. We've just got it secured up over there. We're giving the Alumni Foundation just like we gave large swaths of the original gym floor here at Williams. So, but the marble is going to look very similar, but it's not the original marble, but it is marble stair treads there.
But did you say concrete?
Oh, no, the concrete's going in because we're having to form new steps. Okay. Then marble's put over the concrete. Yeah, I'm not going to get strung upside down like Mussolini by any alumni here for just putting in concrete steps. Because if you have the steps like this, now they got to go 3 forward, so they're being reformed, concrete poured, then the marble being put over top. So yeah, we got new marble going in. So Sharpsburg, a lot of action there. This one involves the office. When you walk up the steps, and there it is, the office being moved to the classroom to the left, as you saw when we were over there. So what we've had there, you got the new access window cut in, and I wasn't able to get a lot of good angles, but you have all the new offices. They're framed in, about 90% of the drywall's in, the air conditioning ductwork's being put in. Once that is finished, then we got to remove a wall that's divides where the secretary is and where Joe's office is. That's becoming the ED classroom right across from the office. And then that starts kind of a domino effect of about 4 or 5 teachers kind of moving around. Because the teacher who was in the room, that's now the office, is going upstairs. Upstairs is coming down. Another teacher's moving over. And so that's kind of log jammed right now because until we can move the office, the existing office into the new office, then all those moves can take place, which is a couple days work with all of our guys involved. View, when you go, that's a neat one because I don't know if the picture is able to really show. When we were up there, even I had concerns about when you come in, why we didn't do at View what we did at Sharpsburg by just moving the office across the hall and then making the office a classroom. Because even if we gutted those walls, it's not big enough for a classroom. So when you came in, there's basically what was at one time a coat closet. But when you go up there now, it's about probably half the if you take my office, when you walk in, you got the wall over here and the windows over here. It's about half the size, so it's pretty spacious. We got air conditioning ducts being put in there because we can't have somebody sitting in there without air conditioning for a couple months of the year. So that's all done. New doorway's been cut in. The access window's been cut in, and then we removed carpet from a couple classrooms there. And I think I included a picture of John where we've put in. It's kind of it's not real hardwood, but it's wood, and John was staining it, and then they're putting a couple coats of polyurethane over it. The whole key is getting carpet out of everything but the offices at this point. There will not be any carpet left at View. But there isn't, other than in the office. Even the media center doesn't have it. They have a VCT that kind of looks like hardwood. It's a vinyl composite tile. So that's what's going on in View. And also, we had taken out a permit with the city to put in some new sidewalk areas because that's our responsibility. Our guys were going to do it. Well, there's a company called Liftco that every July contacts, late June, early July, contacts nonprofits to do free work for them. So last week we got a call from Liftco saying, hey, you know the sidewalks you guys put permits in for? We'll do them for you for free. So they were out there today. And they didn't plan the weather real well, but yes, what they were doing today was demoing the sections of concrete. They were setting it in the grass in between like the small side parking lot and the playground. And then they'll remove it, and then once the weather's good enough for them to form and pour. So that's, our guys aren't having to do it, and we're not having to buy the concrete. So the savings is in the concrete, and then our guys doing other things. Because our guys, majority of them know how to do concrete. And so that was a neat surprise and neat win for us. Here at Williams, we could take a field trip afterwards if you'd like. The new office door and access windows in, and they're starting to work on the framing of where all the storefronts are going to go. And then out here, what you're going to have is when you come out here and go through those doors to go to the restroom, that is where the new storefront and secure doors are going to be. So you're still going to have to buzz in every building. Once you buzz in and we let you come in, you can only go one place. You can't get into the school. You can just come down to the board office. These doors and those doors over there are being replaced with metal doors, and the window is going to be a smaller window. It's going to be the secure window, kind of with the mesh. And so they're fire-rated doors, trying to get the wood doors out of right here, and it's for security. So, and we are keeping the integrity of the arch. That's going to be glass over underneath the arch instead of just bringing it down and making it like drywall. We want to keep the integrity. What we're doing everywhere as much as we can, which this is the only area that was challenged. We're embracing the history and tradition and the architecture of the buildings. So that was an easy one. It cost a couple extra dollars, but we want to keep the arch there. That's when the building was built. That's what it looked like, so it needs to stay. So that's where we are in regards of kind of an update. So before I move on to kind of scheduling and time frame, what questions you guys have, if any?
I don't have any questions, but I did hear, and I know why we do our changes and construction all in the summer is that I guess some of the workers at the middle school had propped the door open, and there were like people being able to get into the building. And I know,
was it a side door?
A front door.
At the middle school, but they're working. They're all right there.
Working. Yeah, but they had propped it open, and then someone came into the building. Which again, I'm like, okay, that's why we do it in the summer because not very many people are there.
Yeah. But well, they wouldn't be able to.
They were talked to.
Yeah,
like the workers.
They'd have to go through about 6 workers, but yeah, they shouldn't be propping them.
Right.
Now, when I was where was I today? That I saw blue tape. I was at Sharpsburg. They had blue tape in the door. And we were at a construction meeting over there, so we got to take that blue tape off. Because what the blue tape was doing was holding the door from locking.
Yeah.
And so you got to take that off.
Yeah.
So I'll shoot Dave and John an email tonight. So remind the guys when you're out and about, don't leave doors unlocked. So it's pretty hot in there right now.
It was funny. Katie was telling me that when they're cleaning the classrooms, they're not allowed to even leave the classroom door open. They have to close the classroom door. And she said, we're roasting.
Yeah.
Where's she at? You see up in the middle school?
In middle school.
Yeah, because they've been, Cameron's doing some work, and he says, I was at the high school, it's about 100 degrees in the room. I said, wrong building. You know, that the building where the wrestling room is. I said, that's the middle school, knucklehead. There's 2 different buildings. So he was like, it was about 100 degrees on the top floor. So I was like to be in class there, or teach there. So, which I'm going to get to where all the work that's already being done in preparation for the air conditioning. When it comes to time frame, by the end of July to the first week of August, everything will be done for the secure entries, but what's called the glass storefront, which is the glass, the framing, and the doors. So basically, the offices will be usable and accessible. People will be able to go in and out. What's not going to be finished is the glass storefront. We are going to start school without that in. And that is unavoidable because there's one domestic manufacturer of that. What's called the storefront is all the glass, the doors, the windows, the aluminum. It's all made by one manufacturer, and it's all delivered, all sized. You have one domestic manufacturer of that. So we're now at about a 6-week time window. We were at a 6 to 8 week time window 3 weeks ago. So we're about 6 weeks out for delivery. The challenge you have is why now our window now is locked in writing. And probably as Kenny can vouch for, when we're dealing with one manufacturer, and you're building a mall or an office building, our order is not as big as theirs. So they're going to get the attention. And I know with you guys, with kind of being the manufacturing, you got an order for $10 million, you got an order for $600,000. $10 million is probably going to take precedent, but we now have the delivery time locked in. And so it's one domestic manufacturer of all this stuff together. So basically, the first 2 weeks we will have where you walk in, you're just not going to have secure doors. So for the first 2 weeks, there's going to be a lot of things that look different, but it's going to be what we ended the year with. And you ring a bell, you get in, you still have access. By the end of the second week of school, we will be operational. And so, and I can scream, I can yell, I can kick, I can put all the pressure I want. So can Steve Emmett and Paul, so can Dave and John, and so can Brewemeyer Construction, the general. But it's down to the manufacturer. So all of their submittals, everything were sent on time. It's just with the construction economy right now being what it is, that's just where it's at. So, and then I hand out to you, this is to kind of give you an idea of kind of the work that's done behind the scenes. This is just a memo from American Facade, kind of give you an idea where we are, and this is right on schedule. Essentially, all that'll be left when the school year starts is the rear of the building, okay? And it will not be the grinding. It will be pressure washing and repacking of mortar, caulk, paint, things of that nature. So this is an example of our weekly construction meetings and what the contractors will provide us. And so this is American Facade broken down to by section of the building, time frame, everything. This is their work schedule. They have if you've been by there's a whole lot of boom cranes and a whole lot of workers there. We had a choice, guys, with the middle school. We could put out the bid in separate summers or one summer, but it would take more than the whole summer. If you remember, it started when school was still in session in May. And by putting it out to bid at one time, it's a cost savings because you have all the labor there, plus you're getting the same contractor to do all the work. And so, it would take a whole summer to do the elementaries. And so this is obviously a whole lot more linear feet. So that's just an example of where we're at. If you want to know when they say south elevation, BDA, and all these different codes, actually, I didn't know if you'd be interested, but I got a map. I could run more copies if you want to, or if anybody wants this. This is kind of where you can match the pieces up to everything what they're talking about. Architects talking north, south, east, west, and elevation is kind of the language. So if anybody wants a copy of the map, I can make more copies of it's just kind of an aerial view of the building, and it's coded. So if only one person wants it, have it there. If not, I can make some more copies. And so that's where we are with the work that's being done right now. What I'd like to hand out to you is kind of the work that's being done when it comes to the air conditioning work. And so this is a 2-page document. And what this is a coordination meeting. I was involving Steve Hammond and Paul. So when you see the names, Ron, Brad, all these different things, you may not recognize them because they're not us. This is Steve Hammond and Paul's work. So this gives conversations, to-dos, where we are with things. This is just kind of a weekly documents that me and John and David get from Steve Hammond and Paul. And if you want to kind of make sense of some things, you look up where it says schedule. SD documents, DD documents, CD documents, and bid. So DD is schematic design, then design documents, then construction documents, and then bid. So that's just different benchmarks of when they're going to have things completed, which then once you go from SD, the next thing you do is the DD, then the CD, and we'll be going out to bid in mid to end of January for all the air conditioning work. The air conditioning work, guys, is the monster because you're going to have so many different trades involved, because you're going to have electrical, you're going to have HVAC, you're going to have general, you're going to have finishing, you're going to have guys who are doing ceiling replacement. It's going to have a multitude of contractors. And this is where Dave and SHP earns their money, because this is a monster, because it's going to be going on simultaneously. And give you an example of some of the wild cards that are there. So the kind of what you're going to see of the what's called the VRF unit is really very similar to what's right behind you. It's like a univent. An old-fashioned univent, but it's kind of a heat pump that's an air conditioner too. And so, and I don't know, Sarah, if Rick's familiar with them, but one thing they're not made for, they're made for rooms, okay? They were first really used and developed in Europe, where they don't build a lot of new. They just continue to renovate old. And so what they're kind of not designed for is like middle school field house and middle school auditorium. So we're also looking at, if we don't do something in the middle school auditorium in the field house, well, then we still got to keep the boiler running to heat it, okay, which is not cost effective. We would have to put a multitude of VRF units into those facilities to be able to heat and cool them. So we're looking at some variations and variables there, and what is not a really acceptable option to me, you guys tell me if you disagree, is not cooling those two, the auditorium or the field house. Here's my perspective on that. Every gymnasium is going to be cooled, right? And when does it get really brutally hot in the field house? The summer, and especially into the fall. So why should the middle school girls volleyball have to play in that heat? If they're playing in youth down the elementaries, they don't. When they get up to high school, they don't. And then the second is the auditorium at the middle school, really our show place. You've been in there in September for meetings. You've been in there for our biggest scholarship and alumni in May. It can be brutal. To give an example, when I'm up on stage for some of those scholarship things, I have an entire set of clothing waiting on me back here, because when I come off that stage for 3 hours, you're soaked head to toe. And it's just as bad whether you're on the stage or sitting out watching your kids or other kids get their scholarships.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of that. I'm just thinking of not only for the comfort of our people inside, it's also for the care and protection of the building itself, the plaster, the wood. My house thanked us when we got air conditioning.
Well, you're controlling the humidity.
Yep. We're controlling.
You're controlling the humidity and the swelling. Give you an example, like the door to the treasurer's office into the board office. There's times a year that it swells and you can hardly even close it. There's other times, so when you're walking into it, you can just kind of nudge it and it opens. Then you get the time of the year when the door's not swollen and you just go to nudge it and you smack into the door because you got to actually turn the door handle. I haven't figured out in 9 years which or which, so I'm always whacking my face. But it's part of the safe, warm, and dry.
Yes.
And so it may not be a VRF system. It could be something different. Right. But basically, we're looking at all the different options and what is the most cost-effective and most efficient way to do it. So probably we will not be air conditioning the myriad of catacombs of locker rooms at the middle school, because there's about 1 million different levels there. Don't look at air conditioning those. Obviously, they'll be heated. But that's going to be all part of what we're looking at, is some different variables other than the VRF system for those two, for the field house and for the auditorium. I just wanted to make sure you guys are okay that we heated it and cooled it as opposed to left them alone. And it's really not efficient to have this big old boiler to just heat two facilities, because that doesn't work. That's really expensive to do that. So, but I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of kind of the work that's being done behind the scenes. And we had our first meeting about the middle school and air conditioning and elevations and emergency lighting just about the middle school, because middle school has a lot of nooks and crannies, and it's a big monster and air conditioned, has a lot of different levels, all these things. So we had our first meeting, gosh, maybe the first week that school got out. And so it was me, Dave, John, and about 10 guys from SHP. Because you had engineers, architects, electrical engineers, guys who do the shop drawings, just all kind of, probably similar to Kenny and Scott, what you guys deal with all the different, trades and expertises involved in things. So it's a lot of fun. So all the pictures you guys saw were being loaded up with a lot of description onto the website, because I was gone for 2 weeks, then Terry was gone last week, and so they're all being loaded up onto the website tomorrow. Terry will be loading them up.
Right orientation.
Right orientation. I sure hope so. Or people are going to be going. Because a couple, I didn't even notice it at first, and I went back and looked, and I went, what is that? And I went, oh my gosh, they're sideways. I think the first one I saw sideways was the middle school, because I'm going, what is that? I took oh my goodness, it's sideways. So yeah, they'll be the correct orientation. So that's where we're at with all the construction guys. And so this will be what you're going to have, this detail now, from now until basically every committee meeting, every committee meeting, because you're at least going to be getting these like in October, November, December. So this is the detail. We can have SHP do it. We can have John and Dave come and do it, or all the information can be compiled and given to me, and I can present it out. With it being July, I'm fine. There may be times I'd bring an SHP in because of the depth of the information that the architect, and I'll probably have Dave, John, SHP in it at sometimes. Probably, I would imagine December, right before the big monster in January hits of everything that we're bidding out. Because we're going to have other things than this. It'll be lockers, more energy replacement, things of that nature. And also, one thing I didn't take a picture of is at View, and we're going to slowly be moving into some of the other buildings, is we're doing a lot of the ceiling light, fluorescent light replacement. We got an incredible program that gives us about an 80% rebate back on the lights. And for a drop ceiling, they look great. Honestly, they're about that thin. And they're super efficient, very bright. And so if you go up to View and you walk into a couple classrooms, they come on immediately. They're nice and bright, extremely energy efficient, and a huge rebate back from Duke Energy as part of a federal program. But you'll see some, and Jerry and I were talking about this, where they're hanging. And you're like, okay, well, I see all the conduit and everything. Well, when the air conditioning goes in, drop ceilings would be put in to where you see some words in here, 50% partial. I'd be where there's not drop ceilings would be put in, because there will be some ductwork that's involved. And so they'll look great. They're super efficient, and we got a great rebate on them. And the best thing is our guys are putting them in. So that's a huge savings. So we just had to buy them. We're not paying anybody to put them in. This is what our guys are able to do. So, but this is going to be similar to the updates you're going to be getting every month. So, any questions before we move on with the agenda? Okay. Anytime you guys want to take a peek around, feel free to do it, or give me a call. Give John a call. Give Dave a call. Any of us can take you around. And so, or you can just poke around yourself. Right now, it's pretty self-explanatory what you're seeing. So, and the last piece of it is Scarlet and Gray has been great to work with, because there's some things that would have been cleaned and waxed by now that, well, they're not, because they have drywall dust and concrete dust and things of that nature. So, but they've been great. Dave and John met with them back in May, gave them construction schedules, and some of those have had to be tweaked, but they've been great. I mean, they're just so easy to work with. So, may mean some overtime for Katie as they head in towards August, because there's going to be some things that have to be done on Saturdays. So a lot of things that have to be done on Saturdays. What's that?
Drywall dust is the worst.
Oh my goodness. The best way I found to get drywall dust up with is those backpack vacuums.
Oh.
Because when you use a shop vac, you think you're getting it all up, and then you're like, boy, it seems to be smoky in here. It all goes out your exhaust. Yeah. And so those pick it up like crazy. Because, when you sweep it up, it's finer than baby powder. It just all goes up. And for weeks, you're still trying to clean it up. And the backpack vacs clean it like that. And they don't exhaust it out. And about every 10 minutes, just go empty the canister out and put the filter back in and keep on going. So those work pretty well. So, okay, I can move down the agenda if you guys would like. We've got as you see, we're ramping up. These are band competitions, approval of student trips. And then going into employment, we have a couple resignations. Stephanie Meyer, she's going to Macaulay. Alexis Weber, we hired her in May, and she's from Columbus, and the school she went to for high school offered her, so she had yet to move down here, so she's staying there. Chris is going to Moeller. We lost Megan Milo to Lakota. That's a big loss. Megan's a tremendous teacher. What I can tell you, it's not on the agenda yet, but Alexis and Chris I replaced today. Megan, we don't have to add any staff, and what we're doing is doing some internal moves. Moving a title teacher, actually Greg Wiles' daughter. We had hired her for title, and we've taken don't quote me on this, I think it's about a 12 to 15% reduction in title funding as our poverty level is being reduced. Our free and reduced numbers are going down, and that's your poverty level. What's called disadvantagement level is what your title numbers are based on. So we're moving. Since we don't have as much title funding, then we're just going to have Amy Wiles teach first grade. And she was going to be title in first. And I could tell her she's teaching AP Calc right now. And she would go, okay, and just go get to work on it. She's so excited. And that's just your typical Norwood grad right there. And so we replaced Chris, we replaced Alexis. We're in the process of replacing social studies. If there's any one content area that you're comfortable with having to still find in July, it's social studies. I interviewed 4 today. Brad's done a bunch of interviews. I called one guy two and a half hours after I interviewed him and offered him a job, and he'd already taken a job at Lakota East where he student taught by the time I called him. So we've interviewed 3. We have 3 other candidates, plus we got a heck of a candidate that we became aware of last night that he's out of Cleveland, but Brad's doing a phone interview tomorrow, and then I'll follow up with it over the weekend. So
the social studies is for what?
It was for Stephanie Meyer's position, so it's high school. Yeah. Yep. So, and then so we have we've in some of our employment. We'll have some additional ones on here, but this is replacing at the high school. It's replacing Susie. We've got Eula Jameson. This is a big win for us. She was a tremendous teacher, and now she's going to be in the media center, and so. That's a big win for us. And then we've got Avenues for Success, paid through for the grant funds, physical therapists, got our Thursday school detention monitors, home instructors, after school intervention. And to go in the back real quick on the teacher contracts, we lost a art teacher at View. I hired her replacement yesterday. I just didn't have her added onto the agenda because I never want to change committee when I give it to you on Friday and we turn around on Tuesdays the meeting. So what you'll have next Thursday is all the vacancies will be filled. So they'll be on the agenda. Going over to supplementals, we have everybody who is agenda ready. That means they have taken all of their courses and it's come down from ODE. Now, one thing you have a new one for coaches have to take, and it's the AED training. And so that training, it's online. It didn't go live until July 1st. So you have some people who have just taken it or still need to take it. But I've made it clear to our athletic director, and all fall sports coaches, if you're not agenda ready, you're not coaching August 1st. Bottom line. Everybody has that in writing from me. And so remember, agenda ready means you are up to date with pupil activity, your CPR, and your AED training. You've taken everything, you've filed everything with ODE, which we can see on our end, whether you filed it, you've written your check, and you filed it. And so the turnaround from ODE is becoming quicker because everything's automated. Sometimes it can be 48 hours, sometimes it can be 7 days. I'm sure it just depends what the onslaught across the state is. But it's a lot quicker when it used to be paper, hard copy paper. I had to sign everything, and we put an envelope, send it up to ODE. There was a paper check. Now you can pay online. You can submit everything online. So that's turning it around much quicker. But that's everybody as of right now who's agenda ready. I anticipate there'll be significantly more because I do know who has taken everything and who just needs to file it, and they've gotten personal phone calls or should have from our athletic director saying, go online, file it. But everybody knows if you're not agenda ready, which means qualified to coach, you will not step on a practice field August 1st. So volunteers and everybody. And so, and I have some help with keeping accountability on that.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
then we go over to, let's see, replacement of junior class advisor. And then we have, every year the district crisis plan is updated. We only have to send it to OD once every 3 years, but we do it every year. And then, now you have a choice. You can get the crisis plan that we have at our fingertips, which is very detailed, but it's about 27 pages. Or you can get the one that we spent about 3 months doing for Ohio Department of Education, Ohio Homeland Security. That's about 330 pages. So which one would you like, guys? Because the one that's 330 pages, about 315 of the pages are boilerplate. To where, honestly, we're not getting that one out in a crisis.
Right.
Because it fits, it's a one-size-fits-all where we just had to plug names in. To where the one that's about 27 pages is the one that every administrator has like right behind their computer. That if we got an issue, we grab that one. The other one, by the time we found the page that we want to refer to, whatever crisis is, it happened 3 days ago. And so I can send you the updated one, hard copy if you'd like, or email just as an attachment, or if you want hard copy, we've got a lot of them because we print up a handful of them every year. The biggest changes are typically with names or numbers, and I don't think I lost an administrator this year, so those numbers are the same. We still have the same SRO, and so Norwood Police, Norwood Fire, Hamilton County, all those different crises, they're all the same. So we typically have to put in new names or numbers if somebody's changed, but everybody's in the same place. And then we have no policies. Expect the next onslaught of about 20 of them coming in the next couple of weeks. And then Ernie will provide financial reports. So I'll be getting, we had our first wave of unofficial test scores. Remember, unofficial means everybody who's taken the test. And then we have till the end of the month to where we work internally and remove every kid who's a non-qualifier. And so typically our scores will go up at that point. I would say right now our scores are average. I've checked with a lot of other superintendents. Everybody's kind of in the average at best, but I'm only concerned about ours. There is one that I'm really concerned with is high school math was terrible. And here's what I'm going to tell you. We're switching around who teaches what. We're putting strong teachers into algebra because that's essentially the test. And so we're 32% passage rate in algebra at the high school, and that's not okay. And so now it's going to go up because we have to remove a lot of kids out, but it's not going up to 70%. I'm going to tell you that. So me and Brad and Tom Munchin met, and we'll be meeting with all the math department, and even Brad Hunt's going to teach in algebra. And so because we need talent teaching there. Joel Ward, who's been very successful teaching Algebra 1 down at the middle school, he's a high school teacher now, so he's going to be teaching it, but we have some gaps there, and that's not okay. Now, one thing that's good is teachers' evaluations are tied to their test scores now in the state of Ohio, and that's good. That's 50% of their eval. I'll also tell you, it's also not the end-all to be-all, because we have some doggone good teachers whose scores aren't great, and they didn't wake up yesterday and become bad teachers. I will tell you one thing. I really anticipate kind of my opening day speech is going to be about is, without getting on my soapbox, what has been created is an old-fashioned bell curve. The desire of the legislators, a lot of policymakers. You have a little group of very successful over here, a little group over here of people who can't pass a doggone thing, and their value added is terrible. And we'll know our value added after you move all the kids, and then everybody else kind of right in the middle of that average. And one thing I've got to guard against as a superintendent is to steal one of my least favorite president's speeches. Remember when President Carter gave the Great Malaise speech that our country has a crisis in confidence and is in a great malaise? One thing that I've got to make sure everybody is that what I don't want is people losing confidence in themselves as a teacher, because we're the same classroom teachers that put excellent banners up on these buildings. We have the same leadership that was putting excellent banners up in these buildings. People didn't wake up and decide to be a lazy teacher. People didn't wake up and decide to be a bad teacher. People didn't wake up and decide to not give their all to their kids. The rules have significantly changed, and we are professionally developing our teachers as hard and as effective as we can. And when you talk to a lot of our staff right now, they're dejected. They're saying, what more can I do? And, then you look at, I'm going to give you two examples. Katie or Marshall, is it going to shock you? Their test scores were off the charts. But if you know Katie and Marshall, beside parenting, teaching is all they do. That is their life. They teach and they parent. And I'm talking, they're developing lesson plans every day all summer. And it's almost having to become, this is what a lot of staff are feeling, that it has to be my end all to be all, that this is all that I do to even have a chance. And so I got to make sure you don't get the culture or the internal feeling that I'm working so hard and these kids are working so hard and we're not nailing the 85% that we have to be at. I got to guard against that loss of value or loss of motivation or loss of self-belief, because it's kind of a fine line. When you're excellent and excellent and excellent a couple years in a row, you got to guard against people starting to put in cruise control, which we had a couple areas of that, but it wasn't a cultural shift. But now I got to guard against the cultural shift of people feeling that maybe I'm not that good of a teacher. Maybe our kids really can't learn. You know, to give you, here's the travesty of this. When you're in third grade, how old are you? 8 years old? You know, we had a couple little kids spent 84 minutes and 83 minutes in June taking the third grade reading test. It's a lot of serious attention for an 8-year-old. Been a long time since my kids were 8 years old, but I'm around them all the time. And 2 of them didn't make it again. And so, you know, you spend an entire year building up an 8-year-old as an educator and as a parent. And then a rule is going to tell them, you know what, Robbie, you got to stay in third grade. So you're not as smart, and there's something wrong with you compared to all your friends that went to 4th grade. And that's what the rule is right now. That's what the law states right now. We can spend an entire year teaching that third grader like crazy and building up their confidence. And because they can't pass high enough score on a test, and one little kid in October spent 43 minutes. In April, May, he spent 58 minutes. 84 minutes in June. Still can't get it. It's getting closer. It's a lot of pressure and stress to put on an 8-year-old, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, that's the rule. That's the law. I can't change it. None of us can. You know, me and others are working like crazy to say, come on, really? These are 8-year-olds. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid who's believing in Santa Claus, an Easter Bunny. And, you know, probably still wears pajamas with feet in them. And so we need to remember that this is, I know some people in this room still may do, and if I could get something that would fit me, I would. We got to remember this is a kid business.
Right.
We're not dealing with, you know, a General Motors, you know, production line.
Right.
While we are a results-driven business, that's the bottom line. We also need to remember we are a kid business.
And is that true for any part of the test or all parts of the test? They have to pass all?
Well, for the retention is the third grade reading test.
Third grade reading.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if math is a struggle, they can still continue on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the reading.
Right, third grade.
And so, now there's still some avenues to still move them up to 4th grade by growth and what's called a ramp reading intervention material plan. But, you know, looking at an average test score doesn't make me less proud of our staff. Because I know them, you know them. What I put that heavy value into is value added. And because from the first school that was in a cave, the whole idea is grow those students 1 or more years. And we're doing that. But that is not an attempt to say, well, our test scores are average. Well, no. Because that's how we're being evaluated. That is truly how the public is evaluating us, or the state's evaluating us. But I do have a concern about a crisis of confidence hitting our teachers, because I've talked to some. I was talking to 3 after negotiations a couple weeks ago, and 3 elementary teachers sitting right there, right there, and right there, crying. I know what more I can do. I know what more I can do. One of them's a Norwood grad. 2 of them are just dynamite teachers, crying. 2 Williams, 1 Sharpsburg. Just in tears. And they didn't wake up and decide to not be good teachers or effective teachers. But with that being said, we still got to shoot. We still got to shoot for 85%. We still have an obligation to do our work and do it our best. But if you're, kind of in an athletic event, sometimes you think you played the perfect game and you still lose. Well, I don't want us to get accustomed to that. So it's that fine line. We can't say it's okay. Everybody gets a trophy. You tried. But the same light, I got to make sure that they keep trying and keep working and keep grinding. So that's that delicate balance. We hope to have our final scores prior to school. It's typically around the time we do. Second I get them, you guys will have them. But right now Christina's in. Christina had rotator cuff surgery, so she's in with her arm in a sling. That's why she's not here. I send her home. She can't even drive yet. She got her arm in a block and a sling, and she's working with all the principals. They're still doing what kids count. I mean, guys, every school district is calling each other because, kids who've never been in our school district and we have their test scores. And other districts have our kids, and they've never gone there. They've been in Norwood their entire life, which you would think that wouldn't happen with every student having a student identification number and computerized stuff. But so that's where it's at. That's my long-winded that we got to keep working. We can never be satisfied, but I got to make sure our folks don't start to lose faith and confidence in themselves and or our kids. And so that's something I've been kind of beating around in my brain like nonstop of the last couple weeks. Is cannot be into the. I don't think I've ever quoted Jimmy Carter before in my life, but that was his speech at Great Malaise. It was a crisis of confidence with us as a nation. So I can't have that in our 3.1 square mile city. And I'll never quote Jimmy Carter again. So not a successful presidential 4-year term in office. So I think we had a worse crisis when he left until Reagan gave his inauguration speech, and the Iranians said, "Oh boy, we better let these guys go. Cowboy means business." So with that, I'm finished. I don't have anything else.
Anything else?
Okay. All right.